Are we streaming? Are we live? We are. Sweet. All right. We'll give it a moment for people to join up. I will broadcast. Hey, I am streaming now on Twitch. Tidal Cycles sequencing plus rhythm sound design. Yeah, okay. One more broadcast here. Hold on a sec. Starting a live stream now. Okay. I think we're live. I think we can go. All right, so I'm going to start a new kind of mode of live streaming. So it's going to be less tutorial focused and a little bit more kind of sound design and composition focused. What I'm into these days is using my drum machine for all of my sounds and then live sequencing it from Tidal Cycles. So this is kind of going to be a window into my brain, a virtual window into my brain of kind of making sounds and then how I'm thinking of sequencing them these days. And I've got this handy little blue LED screen. It's not really blue. So I've got a camera on my drum machine LED display so you can see exactly what I'm doing on the machine. You can't see me pushing the buttons on it or the pads and the knobs, but everything you really need to see, I think, is on this screen. So, yeah. So I don't even know where I'm going to start, other than to kind of show you how I kind of do this kind of thing. So I've got my source code, and I'm just going to start up a new pattern. So I was at number 70 last time I was working on some stuff, and so now we'll be doing 71. Oh, hi. So got my new file, and first thing I do is I'm going to create a new kit on my drum machine. So we'll load up 71, which is just a blank kit, nothing on it. And first thing I do is just set the distortion effect to about half the amount, 64. Because otherwise I think the kit or the sounds just kind of fall flat. So there's our stock Electron analog rhythm kit. So what are we going to do? I'm thinking we're going to start with a kick drum and then some sort of some sort of synthy note kind of thing. So let's dial in a kick. Oh, that's not what I want. Let's dial in a pattern to start. I don't know. Let's do a tempo of 160 BPM. And let's do a MIDI pattern. The drum machine's on MIDI channel 1, so we don't need to specify MIDI channel, and I'm going to do MIDI note 0. That's the kick drum pad. And by default, it's at gain 1, which is only like 50% velocity, so we'll bump it up to gain 1.2. By the way, let me know how the levels are. Not sure if things sound good or not, so let me know out there. So I'm going to dial in kind of a patch for the kick drum that I like these days. I'm going to change this to use the classic bass drum engine, which is kind of a short default sound, but I'm going to dial this in to be a little fatter. So we're going to increase the increase. So we've got the tune, and then we've got SWT is sweep time and SWD is sweep depth. So we're going to increase the sweep time a little bit so that it sweeps more slowly. Maybe decrease the depth. Increase the decay. And go to the effects page or to the amp page here and increase the overdrive a bit. All right, so now we've got a punchier kick. Let's give it a different transient too. Something kind of snappy. That'll work. We can fine tune that later. All right, so let's get a more interesting pattern going here. Pat. I really have no idea what I'm going to do here. Just put some notes in. And I'm going to put a structure on this pattern. So now the kick drum is going to follow the number ones. So I'm going to modify this to be and let's put all this in a stack because that's how my brain works. And then let's put on the snare pad, which is pad 2, we're going to put a that's MIDI note 1. We'll structure that with an inverse of the pattern. So this will fire on all of the zeros. But I want this to be some sort of melodic sound, not a snare. So I'm going to change this to be the dual VCO, which is like a 2 oscillator analog synth. And by default, it's got a pretty gnarly bassy sound, so we're going to tone it down a bit. I want something really short and staccato. Let's so I think that F on the config that I'm tweaking there, kind of that bottom left config on the LED display, I think the F is a frequency modulation, I think. So there's I think like 32 or 64 different combination of waveforms you can put on this synth. Yeah, it's definitely like a frequency modulation thing. Not sure that's what I want. There we go. Something more like that. I'm going to put some reverb on it. And we're going to modify the reverb to have longer decay. So here's the reverb page. Let's just see where we're at now. Put a little bit of overdrive on the synth. I want to make the kick drum a little tighter. Okay, take that transient down a bit. There we go. All right. I want more of a sparse kind of melodies or synth notes. So I think I'm going to do like a bunch of. I want the first structure half of the pattern, the ones, to be some sort of random rhythm like I've got here, and then I want a single synth note, the 0, to just kind of stand out. the tempo a bit. I'm not feeling this. So we're going to do something different. Let's do, we're going to do a Euclid sequence instead. So let's do something like, let's do a sequence of 16. All right, so that's a bit much. Let's change that to, let's just slow this down by 2. Want that synth to be a little spikier. So I'm going to change the config so it's got some more of an edge to it. Okay. I wonder if I can put that slow 2 up in here instead. Slow 2. Does that work? No, that doesn't work. Let's see what's going on. I've got 1 viewer. Thanks for watching. All right, that's more interesting. Faster notes, it's more interesting. All right, so yeah, so I've just got this Euclid pattern in Tidal, and I've got the kick drum doing that, and then I've got the inverse of that pattern on a synth note. I'm going to set the tempo of the drum machine equal to the same as my Tidal pattern. Increase the delay. Let's go to the delay page, and I'm going to widen up the delay a bit here. You know, there's enough notes in this. I don't think I really need any delay. It's a pretty dense synth pattern already. Kind of want this kick drum to be a bit beefier now. All right, what else can we do to make this interesting? If we vary up the... let's put a clap in here, because why not? So we'll go to our clap engine. And let's make an interesting clap sound. Let's make this kind of a shorter sound. Kind of a darker sound. Fatten it up. I'll add some more clap transients and decrease the rate. Make it a little snappier. I'm going to go to the filter, tone it down a bit. Maybe add a little bit of overdrive. All Actually, I'm going to also, there we go. So on the rhythm, you can take a sound. So I've just got a clap, and I'm actually able to change the hold amount, which is that after the display updates there. HLD is the hold, which is how long the clap stays open. If I change that to 1, it'll be a very, very short amount of time. And DEC is decay, so very short decay. So let's just add that to the mix, see what happens here. Just as kind of a... I was thinking of adding it as like a backbeat, but we could try putting it on the inverted struct too. Let's do, so MIDI note, this would be 3, and we could do struct like so. Yeah. Open up the filter a little bit. Let's change it to a bandpass. So that's with it as backbeats. Let's do, could also try it as an inverse of the synth pattern. I don't know if this is interesting or not. I'm just fooling around. Let's put a transient, better transient back in there. So the kick engine, can you pattern the X, Y, and Z for Euclid rhythms? Yeah. So yeah, this is the coolest part about Tidal right now for me, is that you can take a Euclid pattern and you can make patterns out of the 3 arguments. So right now I'm have this pattern of 3 hits per cycle, then 7 hits per cycle, then 5 hits per cycle, and then over here I'm rotating the whole structure by 0 one cycle, and then by 2 the next cycle. So it's this endless deterministic, like I don't know how many cycles this takes to repeat. It's kind of insane. MIDI, I'm sending MIDI to the analog rhythm, not the machine drum. I wish I had a machine drum. Those are pretty cool. So this is the analog rhythm. All right, so all right, so on the classic kick engine, I've got some transients to play with that TRA parameter. I think a short one's better. Let's go with that. All right, so I've got a function called roll, which is this function here. Now this is my file of custom functions. Roll will add kind of a it's equivalent to doing stut with 125 times 3 ID. So this will kind of add a well, just let you listen. Kind of adds a delayed clap. If I change this to 125 times 2, it does that. 3 will do that. So roll does the same thing. And G is my mute function. Put this stuff again. So it every 3 we'll do a roll. And I'm going to double the kick with the hi-hat. So that's on MIDI note 8. Put that with the same structure. I'm going to add a little bit of high-pass filter on that hi-hat. So we'll change our filter type to high-pass. Can you hear the birds outside? It's a ugly spring day outside, but the birds don't care. All right, so there's our nice high-pass hi-hat. Try inverting that. So one thing that's kind of cool that you can also do with, so here's the hi-hat pattern. So right now it's just doubling up the Euclidean sequence of the kick drum. And if you put an INV in front of the pattern, it will play on the offbeats. So instead of playing on the Euclid rhythm, it'll play in the gaps. But one thing you can do is you can layer the inversions. You can even invert the inverse. I think I need a $sign then if I'm going to do that. So if you invert the inverse, you get back to the original. And you can chain as many of these as you want. So one of my favorite functions in Tidal is fold every. And what this is like saying every 2, every 3, every 4, and then we can say inverse. And what this is going to do is it's going to invert every 2 cycles and every 3 cycles and every 4 cycles. So you get this kind of overlapping effect of whatever function you pass into fold every, which in this case is INV or inverse. So I'm not sure what this will do. So it's going to flip between inverting and not inverting. In fact, I kind of want to do this on everything, but with different logic. So the kick drum, if I do this, hi-hat, I'll do that. So sometimes they'll be inverted together, sometimes they won't be. We'll do the same thing on that synth note too. Do 3, 5, 7. How about? INV is regular Tidal. That is baked in. INV is baked into Tidal. In fact, if you go to the documentation of Tidal, and if you just look for the struct function, it is. I learned that it's baked into Tidal because of this example, that it's actually in kind of part of the struct function. In INV itself is not documented yet. If you click on that, you just go to the wiki page to create it because it doesn't exist yet. So yeah, that's baked in. So basically, now we've got 3 different patterns that are all kind of following their own logic of when they're inverted and when they're not inverted. But they're all based on the same Euclidean sequence. They're all kind of centered around that. Can you apply patterns to filters and effects? Yes. Now in my case, I'm using my drum machine. I'm not using any Super Collider or Super Dirt samples, so my effects are limited to what I can do with my drum machine. But the answer is yes. In fact, if you take gain as one example, right now all of my pads are playing at 1.1 1.2 velocity on the pads. Well, that's not true. That's not true. Sorry. The default gain in Tidal is 1, which equals a very low MIDI velocity. It's like 50% or something like that. But I think it exponentially increases. So 1.2 is near a 100% velocity in MIDI. But if I could treat this like an effect, and I can even do something like this where you can create patterns of this, think of it like an effect. So now every cycle it's going to be a different pad velocity. So I can hear it change its velocity. So I'm working in MIDI, but if you work with the default Super Collider samples, you can create patterns of effects just like this. In fact, you can even do something like a saw. Use a continuous function to ramp up the gain. That's kind of cool, actually. Okay, now I'm going to go on a tangent. I'm also going to pattern out the CPS. So you can actually apply a pattern to the tempo too. So if I scale it from, I don't know, what's a good value, 0.5 to 2, slow to saw. So I'm going to ramp the tempo too. All right, I'm not going to go that direction, but yeah, so let's go back to our regular gain, regular tempo. I'm going to spend just a moment to dial in the delay on this synth a little bit. So we've got our delay is kind of bouncing back and forth from left to right. All right, so I'm just messing around, but so I was tweaking the delay time. If you see on the LED display, there's the TIM parameter on the top left. So a 1 is super short, and it's tempo based, and my tempo is 180. And if I set this to a nice even interval of 8, 16, or 12, or 24, or 32, it's going to match the tempo pretty nicely. But what I think I want to do is I'm going to set up I'm going to wire up a performance pad to the delay time. So let's do, because the delay time, if I go back to delay, can range from 1 to 128, which maps nicely to our Tidal MIDI stuff. So Tidal MIDI can produce values between 0 to 127, or maybe it's 1 to 128. I'm not sure. Anyway, so we can specify an exact delay time with the performance pad. So what I'm going to do is on the synth, set up a, go to performance, And we'll go to the effect. And when I push the pad, it is going to, what I'm going to do is just wire this up to go to 128 or 127. There we go. So now this performance pad, when I push it, if I just push it with my manually, you can hear the delay time change. All right, I don't know if this is going to be interesting, but I'm just going to run with it. So to control that pad from MIDI, I need to look up the control change number in the rhythm documentation. I've got a bookmark to the documentation for this machine because I can't remember the MIDI specs at all. If I were smart, I would create reusable functions for this stuff, but I never remember to do that. And I'm not going to do it now. Okay, performance parameter 2, that's what we're on, is MIDI CC36. So we will put that, I'm just going to put that here for now. So CCN 36, CCV, if we set it to 1, it should just be the default delay. If I change it to 8, back to 1. All right, I'm not sure I like this direction, but I'm just going to put some values in here. So we got 1, 12, 8, 32, 24, 48, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's just change that value every once in a while. Change the hi-hat decay. All right, I'm not liking that delay at all. It's going to get rid of it. So we can get rid of our CC code. Filter on that synth. Maybe an envelope. Yeah. So one thing you can do with this synth, I never put my chat window back. Sorry, folks. Where am I? I'm lost. I'm lost. The synth has 2 oscillators, and you can detune them so that they're an interval apart. If you want. Ooh, nice. There we go. Something a little juicier. I don't know where I'm going with this. Let's maybe change the hi-hat pattern so that, let's see, how does it work with struct? So I want the open hi-hat involved, and I need to put the same filter. So we've got this nice high pass filter on the closed hi-hat, which is around 110, 109. So put the same filter on the closed hi-hat. I could copy and paste the filter value, but not going to do that. So I want to put some open hi-hat variation into that pattern. So let's just isolate that. So if I do something like this, or can I do I just want to get an open hi-hat in there sometimes. But I think what I'm going to have to do is something like this. 9. Now, this is going to be too regular, though. All right. So all I'm doing is I'm creating a pattern of the 8s are closed hi-hats and the 9 is an open hi-hat. And I've got 6 notes that are rotating around steps of 16. So it's like an interval of 16. And yeah, so I'm just playing a open hi-hat every 6th note that it actually is triggered. It might not be triggered. And with the inversion, you get a lot of variation. Can you do synthesis in Tidal? So Tidal is nothing more than a sequencer, but it couples with something called SuperDirt, which is kind of the default mode of using Tidal Cycles. I'm not using it in this stream, but you can use SuperDirt to do synthesis. You can create your own synths in Super Collider and trigger them from Tidal Cycles. I'm not doing that. I'm just using a drum machine in this case, which is the little LED display thing you see over there on the right. So I'm just using MIDI in this case, not doing any Tidal SuperDirt synthesis. All right, so let's see what this sounds like with the open hi-hat and other stuff. So I kind of want to bring that delay back in the synth, but maybe as kind of a more extreme effect that happens sometimes. Let's see if I can pull that off here. Yeah. Sorry, getting distracted. Okay, so the delay effect on the analog rhythm, if you specify a feedback amount, which is this top right parameter, if you specify a feedback amount that is under 100, or maybe exactly 100, it will feedback. It will never like overdrive itself. It won't. The delay won't resonate or self-oscillate, so to speak. So I think either 99 or 100, it will delay forever, but it won't build up in a kind of a overdriven way, or where the feedback gets out of control. So here it is on 100. So supposedly it'll just let's just play it here. Let's isolate it. I should put this on its own pattern. Okay, so just to be clear, that's the drum machine delay effect. Now, if I bump the feedback up by just 1, I think the delay will start to kind of overdrive itself, and it'll start to kind of self-resonate. That's maybe not the right term, but... that was not as extreme as I was expecting, but I think it can be kind of a musical effect. Hey, there's a blue jay outside. Did you hear it? No, okay. Meanwhile, back to title code. So what I'm thinking is maybe turning on the delay send to, so here we go to here's our synth. If I turn the delay effect all the way off, delay send off, and then I want to turn this delay up just as like an effect sometimes. So I'm going to go back to our performance pad. I'm going to clear out, I had this performance pad on pad 2 of the drum machine to control the delay time. I am going to remove that. And let's reset that. And then I'm going to put this performance pad back on the delay send. So I'm going to change this to 100 or so. So when this pad goes down, it's going to increase the amount of delay. So we'll put this back. CCN, that was 32, is that right? Performance parameter 2 is on 36. MIDI control change 36. Oh dear, we've lost the chat window. And we'll do CCV. By default, it'll be 0. And how about we do like every 5 cycles, CCV will set it equal to 127. So we'll turn it all the way on. Let's just see what this does. It's not doing anything. What did I do wrong? I think I've got it wired up right. Oh, 36. I did the wrong CC number. Jeez. Oh. All right, so every 5 cycles, it's turning the delay on. I think that's a little too many. Let's do every 10. I'll turn the other stuff back on. I'm trying to think of how I would turn this into like a full track. I have no idea. So we're just going to keep playing. We're going to keep adding stuff till there's enough interesting things going on, I guess. Yeah. All right. I have no idea. Is this even interesting to anybody? This is what I do. I decided to start streaming this. And it might be completely boring, but this is what I do. Okay, so I'm gonna add, so one thing that I did recently that was kind of fun, I like these bass drum rumbly kind of things. So if we go back to just the kick drum, if we isolate the kick, what I want to do is add, I want to double that. So I'm going to do double kick. I'm going to double it with this bass tom sound. Nope. We got to dial in the patch here though, but I want it to be kind of like a double bass kind of thing. How often do I stream? Well, this is the first time I've streamed in about 2 or 3 months, which I was doing it at least every couple of days a while back. And I just decided to start up again, so I don't know how to answer that. But double kick, P equals superimpose. We're gonna double this with, we're gonna offset a bass tom. There's our bass tom. MIDI note 4. So what I'm going to do is apply a, I'm creating a custom function called double kick, which will, is passed a pattern. It's going to superimpose on top of that pattern. It's going to play the same notes that are played here, except it's going to delay them by a 1/16 of a cycle, and it's going to play the notes on the bass drum pad, the bass tom pad. So if we do double kick, let's decrease the decay on this. Oh, what did I do? Oh, P. There we go. So now the bass drum is doubled with the bass tom. It's going to dial in the bass tom patch a bit. So yeah, okay. Let's do this like every 10 cycles for 5 cycles. I'll turn everything else back on. All right, it's getting better. So I don't know if you can hear it when the regular bass drum and the bass tom start going together, and then there's an open hi-hat with them. The open hi-hat kind of gets crushed or distorted a little bit. And internally on the analog rhythm, there's just a built-in compressor or limiter that really just warms it. When it squashes the volume down, it really warms everything up. And I love it. That's all I wanted to say. I love it. It might be a bit much. Hey, the cat came to visit. There might be a cat appearing on camera in a moment. There it is. Hey, kitty. So this is a lot of bass though, so we might need to tone this down a bit. I'm gonna apply a little bit of a high pass filter on this bass tom. Cat, I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay, so now the bass tom has lost a lot of its low end, which is kind of what I was going for. There's the full. And if I increase the high pass filter, it just takes a little bit of that sub sound out, which is going to clean up the mix a bit. Now on the bass drum, I've also got a decay, which I haven't really played with yet. We'll get to that. It might be coming up next. So this is Lollipop, by the way. Say hi to the internet. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, I like that bass tom flavor that gets added. I'm kind of wondering if I want to make this kick drum a little meaner, or if I just want to increase the sustain a bit. So I'm just gonna try something. I'm just gonna wire up the control change 35 to the kick decay amount. But every time I change to the docks, my chat window goes away. I'd love you too. So let's we're gonna wire up. So performance pad 1. So by default the kick length is about 25, and I think its sweet spot for length, in my opinion, is right around 90. So we're gonna, when I push this, we're gonna bump it up by 65. Right there. Okay. Let's see what this sounds like. So we'll do a when mod, how about 1311 CCV 127, and by default CCV 0 on CCN 35. So what this is saying is that performance pad 1, which is on CC 35, normally is not pressed at all, but for a couple cycles it will be turned on. Do it for 4 cycles total, so let's do like 16 to 12. All right, the kick drum also has a few different waveforms. So there's also, this is the default. There's also this one that has a little bit more harmonic content in it. It's intense. Here it comes. It might be a little much, but I'm kind of enjoying that right now. So this kick drum on the analog rhythm, what I love is if we turn the overdrive off, and on this particular, so by default the wave shape is this number 1. If we increase the decay time, you get that. Overdrive is all the way off. Okay, if we change the wave shape to be this number 2, I don't know if it's not exactly a square wave, it might be more like a triangle wave or something. But on this machine, if you start to overdrive that long subby kick drum, it has like this kind of envelope shape to it. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's kind of this. That's why I'm not a vocalist. I like dialing it in right about there. All right, but by default, we don't want any sub like that on our kick. back to this. So now let's add some sort of a snare of some sort. That was redundant. Some sort of a snare of some sort. Sort of. So I've got this clap backbeat already. I'm going to put this on. No, let's just leave it there. Let me mute everything. Okay. So here's our clap that we've already got. So on pad number 3, by the way, I'm curious if it would be, do you like this zoomed in view of the LED display, or do you want to see the whole machine? Like you can't see me hitting that pad right now. Yeah. So on the rim shot pad, I can load up a snare. So we'll put the snare drum classic, and we're gonna make this a little nastier. We're gonna get rid of some of the tone decay, get rid of a little bit of the noise decay, increase the noise level, increase the snap. We're gonna tune this up a bit. See the machine. Okay, next time. I can't really rig that up right now. I'll show you the machine next time. At one point I figured out how to dial in the classic snare drum machine on the analog rhythm to sound like a kind of a classic 808, but I don't remember how to do that. So we've got tuning. So the 8 parameters we've got for the classic snare drum machine are tune, we've got detune, which there's 2 oscillators behind the scenes, and we can change how far apart they are in pitch, and the balance between the 2. There we go. That's closer. You can kind of hear some harmony in the background. That's an octave, I guess. You can actually turn the classic snare drum on the rhythm to like a bass synth if you really wanted to. This is the snare drum, but we're not going to do that today. So right about here. So I've got kind of this slow clap backbeat, and I'm gonna kind of make a faster snare drum version of it. So this is something I like to do a lot. So this will be MIDI note 2. And I'm going to start with the same rhythmic structure, but I'm going to speed it up. What did I do wrong? MIDI note 2. Oh, fast 2, sorry. That's not quite right. What I want is something like a... What I want is this rhythm, but I just don't want to type it out like that. Am I sending MIDI to the machine? Yes. So this Tidal Cycles code is, if you see this S MIDI, so I am using the Tidal SuperDirt MIDI. So if I go to SuperDirt, here's my SuperDirt boot up code. I'm not using any samples at all. I've commented out my samples, and I've got this custom SuperDirt boot up. And this line 18 through 22, I guess just through 21, is my, I'm using my audio interface as my MIDI device. And this is, I've got a MIDI cable plugged right into my drum machine. So this name MIDI right here on line 21, this name is what matches this text right here, this S MIDI. So, lost my chat window again. So whenever I type S MIDI, this is all MIDI code that I'm sending right to the drum machine. So I am sequencing the analog rhythm from Tidal code directly. The audio is coming directly from the machine. And I guess maybe to elaborate a little bit more, the audio is going into my audio interface from the drum machine, and it's all going into my DAW. So you can see my lovely voice, and the drum machine's on channel 2 here. And that's all going to the stream. Streamity streams. All right, so let's. So I got kind of a drum and bass rhythm snare kind of thing going on. I don't know. We're gonna see what this sounds like. Add everything else back. I don't know where I'm going with this at all. Just fooling around. What else can we do? I'm not sure I like... So the nice thing about structuring code in this way is I could change the pattern and then the whole thing is going to change up. So I could change this to like a much slower rhythm. What if we stutter that rhythm, the synth note? Stut with 2, and we'll jump it up an octave. Well, that didn't do anything. Oh, I need to put, okay. This is a particular detail of the drum machine. So I'm playing it on MIDI note 1, but in order to play it chromatically, so I've got a chromatic mode on the machine. In order to actually play it like that on this synth, I need to put it on a different channel. So if I say MIDI chan 1, which is actually MIDI channel 2, because we start at 0 in Tidal Cycles, and we have to specify a MIDI note of -24. Again, very particular things about my drum machine, about the analog rhythm. Middle C is on -24, and now when we stutter it, we should hear an octave up. Let's see what this does. Let's back here. All right, so what the heck was I just doing? So I am stuttering that bass note, and I'm adding either a step of 3, step of 5, or a step of 12 to the stuttered note. So you hear the main note, which is a C on minus note, MIDI note. This is 24 steps down from middle C, so it's a C below that. And then I add these notes after that. And I'm sequencing this, so it's like it's basically picking one of these 3 notes every time. And in the process, I also decided to tune down the bass an octave, which kind of made it sound a lot better, I think. Okay, so I found, so this particular bass synth I'm using, it's made up of 2 oscillators. One of them is kind of buzzy. The other is more of like a carrier frequency. I think this is a ring modulation thing. You can see that on that CFG, there's 2 different wave shapes. I think the R means it's a ring modulated thing. But that nice... When I drop down an octave and I increase the decay of that sub, that kind of opened things up a bit. I like it. I'm going to play with some of the other wave shapes here. Put a filter on this. Take some of that edge off. No, edge is good. All right, the last thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to probably call it a session, is there's a function that I found on the Tidal Slack channel a while back, or maybe I forget where I got this. I think Alex McLean provided this for me. It's called Slice Pat, where it'll take the pattern. You can slice it up into n number of slices, and then you can say what of those slices, you can make a new pattern from those slices. So I've been using this for like a fill. If I just put it on top, what I want to do is I want to put that on top of my stack, but it's going to make the whole thing kind of sound kind of nuts. So let me show you an example quick. If I just play MIDI note, let's do try this. Okay, so that's my pattern. Now if I put it slice pat on this, and I want to slice it into 8 segments, and then I can pick what segments I want to play. So if I just say 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it'll play just the 3rd segment for the whole pattern. $. And that's the same as 3 times 8, or 8. If I change it to 2, 1, 0, So it's basically just slicing this pattern into 8 pieces, and it's playing the piece that I want. So I've figured a way, if I say every 4, just do that every 4, you can kind of create these fills. And if I change what's being, which step is being played, kind of in a weird way, this is like a 3/4 type pattern. So now I've got kind of a goofy fill there. If I change it up a bit. If I change this to be 16th notes, this is going to be a nuts pattern. So I've kind of started using this for fills. So if we do, let's say, I don't know, every 9, slice, pat, we'll slice it into 8. And then we'll do a pattern of, yeah, I don't know, something like this. We'll do 8. We do 1 mod. All right, so now this thing is starting to take on a mind of its own, which honestly, I guess is kind of my goal. There's an interesting conversation on this, did I say Slack channel a while back? I meant Lurk channel. There's an interesting, maybe it was the Top Lap forum. Doesn't matter. There was an interesting conversation about composing versus creating generative music. And I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'd like to think I'm composing generative music. If that's possible to do, if that's a thing. Is that a thing? Compose generative music? I'm coding something that generates itself. But what I mean is that I've got 2 of these fills now, these slice pats that are now layered on top of each other. And they kind of cascade and they interact in weird ways now. And you don't always know what's going to happen. In particular, if I also move time around a bit, like so, or let's say every 6, 1 mod 6/4 reverse, now the whole thing it's never going to sound the same like ever. Okay, I think we've reached a point to stop. I know things I know things go in a good direction, or a direction I like when they kind of make me laugh, because this is just silly at this point. Like, this thing it has its own life, which is Is it a good life or a bad life? I don't know yet. So I might come back and work on this a bit. All right, I'm really hungry, so I'm going to stop streaming and I'm going to eat. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. I'd like to set up kind of a regular schedule for this kind of stuff, but I'm not sure what that'll be yet. So I'll get back to you on that. Yeah, okay. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the future, if not later. Glad you enjoyed. Thanks a lot. So I am, what am I doing? I am really bad at self-promotion and stuff like that, but if you are enjoying the streams, if you like this stuff, I've got a link on my Twitch profile where you can go to coffee.com and you can buy me a coffee. Do not feel obligated, but if you enjoy what you see, you can do that, and maybe I'll make this more of a regular thing. All right, thanks. All right, see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. See ya. Bye.